Hey, it's your boy ConsertViz34. I'm sorry if this video is grainy. Hoping to upgrade my webcam very, very soon. Hopefully you can hear me through the mic. But long story short, I haven't been able to do Saturday night streams. My original computer had fell apart, literally. It fell apart. And I could not do these streams because my computer was literally not working. And I got this kind of temporary computer for now, and I'm hoping to get a webcam upgrade to it by actually buying a USB webcam to get a better visual than what I have now because it looks pretty grainy here. So that is something that I'm going to be working on so that we can do Saturday night streams. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff because it's been a minute since I had a live stream. So I'm going to post this link to Twitter. And then, okay, and then people can see it on Twitter. All right, let me go back. All right, if y'all can hear me, if you're in, definitely say what up in the chat. Uh, I don't know what happened to. I don't know if Alan's coming on. I know a lot of times he's busy at work. I think my boy John's coming on. Um, Let me just message a couple people. Uh, All right. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me just try to see if I go on from my phone. See if I can even hear. Oh, so it does sound like I am sounding solid through this. So just ignore the grainy video, the 1995 dad's old video camcorder type video. But all right, so we got two people in right now, and I'm sure people are gonna be watching this on the replay. Shout out to everyone who's watching this on the replay. So first, I want to start off. We're gonna get to some other stuff, but I want to start off with some videos that I did record on this page. And those videos are Peace Up, A Town Down. They are gone from my YouTube page. All right. So in those videos, if you saw them earlier in the week, thank you guys for watching. I went in and I was very critical of just inaccurate and ignorant and senseless comments by DMB fans that just didn't make sense to me. And I removed it just because of some of the responses back from people who were called out and where I got the images from. So because of that, purely because of where the content was taken from, as far as a form that was not a public forum, that's why the videos are off, plain and simple. And that's That's the only thing that's on me is that. Everything else I stand by, right? Facts are facts. I pointed out facts. I called out just different things, not only on the video. If you looked at the comments that I made the comments also on the forum. Anything that I said in the video, essentially I said in these forums or message boards of DMB fans. And one of the things that I do here is I try to be that voice for fans in the middle of this fan base, Dave Matthews Band fan base, and just in the middle of even other. I don't think other fan bases. I'm not as entrenched in them to see the issues, but essentially, there's two types of DMB fans. There are the fans who just hate on everything, and then there are fans who Talking Tunes is in. Hey, what's up, Talking Tunes? There are fans that hate everything, and there are fans that think that this is rainbow and butterfly and compromise. Those are lyrics from Maroon 5, She Will Be Loved. But like, you can't hate any single thing. You cannot be objective. You cannot be honest. And there's a lot of people in the middle who sometimes they love certain parts of stuff. They don't just hate on stuff, and there's certain stuff they just don't like. And there's no platform for people like that, really. It's either you play or hate on ants marching, or you literally love every single thing. And you cannot have any voice of reason to question anything about how people behave. And my issue with some of the comments were that seniority was being flexed. Now, this is the opinion part. I'll get to the facts part. But my issue was seniority was being flexed in different conversations. And I saw fellow colleagues like Lauren K, and other people. I can't remember the other names because all my content is gone, but there were other fans who were just trying to point out, hey, this fan vote thing, it's cool, but let's take it down a couple notches, because the ballot is the ballot. You get a fan ballot, and that fan ballot counts as one vote. And then people say, no, 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 but I do this. I brought together this page. I'm like, that has nothing to do with what the discussion's about. So if you have points to counter or disagree, that would be cool. Not saying, oh, I have 27,000 fans, which is an impressive amount of fans to have in a group, but that has nothing to do with the subject matter that was at hand. Also, there were comments about, the Hall of Fame needs us. We don't need they need us to sell tickets. I'm like, that's false. And then there's just stuff like where someone said, I've been going to shows for 20 years, and the shows are getting fuller without any context on, if you look across the country, if you do your research, that's not true. So facts, that what made me is the seniority. These are people that had put these groups together, that had been to shows for 20 years. And the fact that they didn't have their eyes open, even if you just go to one show a year, just don't comment on the state of the band. But to say that certain stuff was the way they were and it was false, that's what that's what really got me mad. And then again, seeing Lauren and seeing other people have discussions, but then other people saying, I put this group together, I brought you into this world, I'm going to take you. Like, that type of argument is so pointless and has nothing to do with what was being discussed. Um, and that's where I was. That's why I was charged up on the videos. I was charged up. I was angry. I was upset. I am excited to see DMB at the top. I'm very excited to see DMB at the top of this fan vote, but it's not the end all be all. I don't think we need to, like, yeah, keep voting, vote whoever you want to, but I don't think we got to just, like, oh, let's send a message. Like, it's still a fan ballot. Keep voting, keep up what we're doing, and everything will be good. And the other thing that frustrated me is people were saying that people who were sick of the fan vote alerts, um, they were getting excessive. My boy Talking Tunes is on, and shout out to him. He sets up a poll every day. There's a couple other reminders every day. That's all we need. That's a couple reminders. It got to the point where we had more sales managers than sales agents with this whole fan vote. Like everyone was trying to be a sales manager, saying, "Come on, we got to like trying to rally the troops and talk to us like we're 5 years old and say, don't forget to like." Talking Tunes had his poll. Other couple other people had their things set up, and then you have 10, 15 other people doing the same thing. Like it's not just you don't like it, scroll down. No, you keep scrolling down, fan vote, fan vote, fan vote, spreadsheet of the voting, fan vote, fan vote. Like it got frustrating for fans to see that, including just fans who don't really speak out, like Scott, Scott DiPolippo and some other people. Um, I saw like they hardly just come out against certain stuff, and they're like, "Look, I'm sick of this." So that's what was the frustration. Now, here are the facts. Since the videos are gone, this is what the meat of the video was. Okay. Somebody said the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't need DMB to sell out. I said that's not true. This thing sells out virtually every year. Okay. I don't I have yet to see where it didn't sell out. And yeah, Talking Tune says what I was hoping is people would comment on my poll instead of make their own posts. Right? He got approval from a group to make this poll. You say yes, you say no, you say how do I vote? So if you feel embarrassed and you don't know how to vote or you don't know where to click because it is a little confusing, you go to Google. It takes you to Google. You don't like you can't just go on the website, click it, and vote. You have to go to Google to vote. There's a link to Google, and I think they do that on purpose. They can data mine your data. They can do different things, and Google gets what they want, and that's how the internet works now. Your information is for sale, right? So they see you vote for DMB, you may get DMB ads. But it is a little bit confusing to vote in the sense of it's not just click and vote, but there's a poll every day. There you can set an alarm, you can set an email. Um, but yeah, going back, the first fact is right. Talking Tune says the Facebook algorithms. This it's weird because with these algorithms, I'm seeing posts from Wednesday, from Monday, like every day it gets worse. Um, but the first fact again, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't need DMB to sell out, and I just thought that just made me mad and frustrated because you're a fan, and part of my anger in all of this is people say like, why are you just going in on fellow DMB fans? This is what friends do. I remember a time, just a quick side note. I remember a time I was dating a girl at the time. I have a female, I call her my white mom. We just joke about that, right? But I was dating someone at the time, and I brought this issue that me and the person I was dating with had to my white mom, Becky, right? Which is her name, Becky, right? Don't laugh too hard. But anyway, my friend Becky said, look, after I told her everything, nah, you need to do this. You need to let this slide. You need to just give it, like, just do this, change your ways. You're being stubborn. It's one of the best things someone could have said to me. I told her the story thinking she's going to take my sides. He says, no, Marcus, you're wrong. And she doesn't like, she doesn't trust women like that. She thinks all women lie. And she's like, no, no, no. In this case, no, you're wrong. So that's what I'm trying to do with the fan base. Now, if you don't like it, hey, you don't have to watch my page. Someone threatened me like, oh, you're gonna lose fans, you're gonna lose whatever. Hey, it is what it is. I gotta live. To me, it's not about getting a bajillion fans. It's about having a conversation with fans who agree all the time, who disagree all the time, or who are in the middle, and then having positive discussions, not just being happy all the time or hating all the time. Again, it's the middle of the road discussion with this band where we can be honest, we can talk about what's good, we can talk about what's bad, and everything in the middle. So the other thing was comments were made about DMB tripling their touring, right? And then about the crowds being more heavy in volume, which is false. Now, this comes from somebody who was again. These comments are made based on someone going to one popular venue. It's a popular venue. Like that's not they're not tripling their shows. By the way, they're cutting Pittsburgh. They're cutting a night at Hartford and a night at Mansfield. They used to have 2 nights there. They cut New Hampshire, right? Sure, they go to Europe, they add Pensacola, but there's less shows now than there were back in 2012 when I started. There's less shows now than in 2013 when we got 2 nights at Hartford and 2 nights at Mansfield. They take an entire month off, so they don't triple their shows. And the other day, the crowds are fuller. Not at the average venue. Matter of fact, the fall touring, if you looked at the fall touring, if you went to shows in the fall, there were empty seats. And even when I went to uh, not Manchester, Mohegan, which was a sold out show, people left. There were empty seats at that because a lot of the tickets, the reason it kind of sold out is because they gave high roller these tickets and some of them never showed up to the concert. My row, there was an empty seat the whole show pretty much. So the tickets at Charlottesville, there were empty seats. If my boy John Dix is on, you can attest to that, right? At the top, there were empty seats. There were two, $3, $4 seats. And after fees is a little more because but the minimum prices you could put on StubHub, these tickets in the upper level at the hometown shows to wrap up the tour. Um, and these were great shows, and I went to a show. And if I had more time off from work and there wasn't as like a snowstorm, I would have went to two more shows. So that's number two that's wrong. That's fact number two that those two things are true. And then the other thing that I was trying to portray, which is a fact, is the fan vote does not automatically get the band in. Now, I think the band is going to get in at some point. I think I'm confident that they're going to get in at some point. I don't care if they never do, but they're going to get in. But the fan vote does not equal you automatically get in. Yes, historically, every single time that the number one fan vote getter is number one in the polls, they get they get the nomination. I mean, there's five people they're gonna pick, five acts they're gonna pick. So if it's just lined up like that. But the reality is when you break it down, right? The fan vote, the top five get the same prize, one ballot vote. There's thousands of other votes, and it's gone from like I've heard. I looked at the history of the years, and it's at 800 and 900. I think they add people on. If you get inducted, you get a ballot vote. So if there's a band of five people, they all get votes. So it's up to around 1,000. So now the fan vote is 1/1000th of a vote, and that's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. You do not get in based on the fan vote alone. It just happens that it's lined up. And again, you're talking about artists like Kiss or not Kiss, Bon Jovi, I think it was. But you're talking about artists when you're number one in the fan vote for these are all classic artists. So if the fans vote for this artist, the number one vote getter typically is the most popular, but they also have rapport with the people who are voting, industry leaders and people who are already in. So that's why it's a coincidence because again, people vote a certain way, but the fan vote does not have that power. It's 1/1000th approximately of that. And now here's that those are the facts. And that's what I pointed out as facts. What I want to say next about this fan vote is it's a promotional tool. Okay. This fan vote isn't to get people into the Hall of Fame. That's why they made it 1/1000th. If they wanted to make the fan vote truly count, they would say, you know what, the top fan vote getter automatically. So once the voting wraps up, it, if you get if you lead the leaderboard, then you automatically get in. That's how it would be. No, it's 1/1000. All right. And the ballot getters, this is actually, the reason I'm not saying this is a fact is because it may not be fully true. There may be some ballot voters or ballot getters who do go by the fan vote. I don't know. But the ballot getters aren't, to my knowledge, aren't tied to the polls. They vote on their own accord. They don't say, well, it's not like, electoral college or other stuff. Well, this, X amount of people voted. We got to send X amount of votes from ballots. We got to force these people to vote for this person. No, they have to vote on their own. The other thing I want to go over is there is hate from other fan bases, but the industry overall respects the band. There was one article on Cleveland.com, and if you don't know what's going on in the newspaper industry and then just in the journalism field, there are articles written to get a rise, to get clicks, to get views, especially the Cleveland.com. We have a Boston.com, up in the Northeast. These, you know, these places of business as far as for journalism and for writing articles, they got to get clicks now. They got to get web clicks because newspapers aren't selling. So when you talk about the Dave Matthews Band and you make a vague post about Green Day and Pearl Jam, you're gonna get people to click on that link. And the dude knew exactly what he was doing. That's why he wrote the article. So that's one. There's one article that was negative. There was not another professional article that I saw that was negative towards the Dave Matthews Band. All the other articles were about where the votes were and how DMB took over the votes. Okay. And even this guy admitted it. Like they're taking this thing over. So that's one thing. And people hopped on like, oh, the industry. No. The industry respects the band. And yes, there's hate from other fan bases, but I don't have time to debate with people who don't like the Dave Matthews Band. For what? What are you gonna? What are you gonna? If you don't like the band, you don't like the band. Now, if you want to say they don't do this, they don't do that, or they're just all this and all that, I can say, well, you know what? That's not true. You're not listening to the band. Okay, Carter Beauford is respected as one of the best drummers of all time. You know, and Leroy Moore, coming from learning from Branford Marsalis, is one of the best saxophone players to get into acoustic rock or acoustic pop, whatever you want to call DMB. There's not saxophone players doing that. All right. So I don't have time to argue with other fan bases. What I'm looking at is my brothers and sisters that represent DMB, to say, look, no, that's not true. You can have your opinion. You can like that girl is you 4 million times. I don't like it. That's just a difference of opinion. But you need to treat the Hall of Fame with respect. You need to be humble in this process. You need to not say stuff until it happens. Now you can believe stuff, but let the process work itself out. People aren't trusting the process. They're just saying, "Oh, we got to get the vote. We got to do." And the other thing was people were trying to bully people into not voting for other people that changed their lives, Soundgarden, Nine Inch Nails, etc. Only vote for DMB. Like that's very like you're that's not the way you should be represent the band, because they hold these other artists in such high regard themselves. Stefan tweeted about that. Dave said, "I don't belong here." Now people say, yeah, you do, Dave." But he's like, no, he respects Pat Benatar. There's DMB fans bashing Pat Benatar just to bash her. That's not respect. Um, and that's what it is. And I stand by my comments. I stand by a fact, because no one can say, all right, videos are gone. No one can say the facts that I pointed out are lies. You could say I don't know I haven't gone, I've been going since 1993. You can say, hey man, you came in too aggressive. Fair enough. Hey, that's what you think. That's what you think. But no one can say that the facts that I gave were not, you can't say the facts were wrong. And that's one thing that this page has been about. Now, when I'm wrong too, and I still got to do research on the record for fan votes, and if back in the day you could, it was only one vote per day, like technically per account, because there's some discrepancies between if Bon Jovi and if when Stevie Ray Vaughan got 18 million, was there an ability to vote multiple times a day? I don't think so, but I still have to look that up before I make a final ruling. But you know that's where I stand on this Hall of Fame vote. As I've said, to me, people need to be more and remember more of your memories with the band, not if they get a medal or not. Okay, people. I just feel like people are insecure. They need this self validation. Oh, the band will be happy if they're on stage, but the band will be happy if they don't get in. All right, they don't play for this type of thing. They play because they love music. They love what they do. They want to make a difference in the world, right? That's why they put their money towards different charities. They want to make money for themselves too. Let's be honest, right? They don't the tickets aren't free, right? Ticket prices keep going up, right? So they want to make some money for their family. They want to pay their staff off, right? They want to pay the reason they did the Dakota show. I think, was it North or South Dakota? They did, part of the reason that I've heard is they were trying to give their tour and tech people some extra cash before they head home. Those shows and the payout for that is for them. The people that are on the road, they don't get $1 million check per show, right? They're getting much less, and they only can work X amount of times. When the band tours, they work. They have to free up. They have to be ready for whenever the band tours. So that's what that is. But anyway, That's all I'll say on that. Now, do I think they should get in? Absolutely. I think that they should get in. If I'm a voter, I'm gonna vote for them. If I had a actual ballot, if I was a music personality that had a ballot, why? First, they were a chart-topping band who had more than just soft rock pop hits. In the 90s, you had these acts that had one hit or just pop songs hits, and they topped the charts, and that was really it. Their deep cuts weren't really deep, but this band had tons of content that they played every night that was not a top 40 hit. And that's always been my argument about when you think about, oh, we gotta have some people say for festivals they gotta just play the hits. When DMB was selling out football stadiums, you gotta just the reality is when you sell out a football stadium, there's gonna be a good percentage of that fan base that's just there for the hits. That's the reality. When you're selling out football stadiums, the Grateful Dead may be an exception, but even some people are just there for the fun of it. But when you sell out a football stadium, when you're Ed Sheeran, people are there for the hits. They're not there for the deep cuts. The band still played the Stone, Dreaming Tree. They played Sleep to Dream Her when that album came out. They played different songs they played 15, 20-minute songs and still held a fan base. What artist can say that? Imagine if Ed Sheeran pulled up, right? Imagine if Usher or 50 Cent had, well, 50 Cent's a bad example, of Jay-Z had a 20-minute song. He's a popular artist. Beyonce had a 20-minute song and people still kept going to shows. Had a 15-minute song, people still kept going to shows. Doesn't mean play Jimmy thing that long, Dave. Okay, if you're listening. But what other artists can say that got top 40 hits? Now you have your Fishes, you have your Grateful Deads, but the Grateful Dead, which I hold in high regard too. I think what they did is much more challenging than what DMB did as far as play the sets they played. Like they didn't repeat songs for weeks. I mean, not weeks, for a week they would do two unique sets on a Monday and a Wednesday, and then the next Friday they do a different. Anyway, that's not the point. But what DMB did on that end is impressive. The other thing is they toured nonstop for 25 plus years. Now it can't just be the touring only. It can't just be they got hits and they did this, but those are two things. You toured nonstop. I mean, there's no one that I can think of in the game in this current era that has done that on such a large arena amphitheater level. There's some country acts that do that, but they play the same set every night. I mean, Garth Brooks can do his set in his sleep. No, well, I guess that is disrespect because he did lip sync. So yeah, disrespect to Garth Brooks because he did lip sync for something. Mr. Performer of the Year lip syncing. Hey, it was this. Who cares? You're Performer of the Year. Um, so the touring that they do, the sacrifice that Dave made, that Boyd made, as far as his carpal tunnel, that's got to put into that. Number three is the experimental live songs. Again, going back to you have a football stadium full of fans and you're experimenting with stuff that they've never heard. Again, does Beyonce doesn't do that. Ed Sheeran doesn't do that. They don't make up songs on the road and test them on the road. It's got to be approved by their label. It's got to be complete. The singles got to be out. Or if they release it live on tour, they're gonna play it the entire rest of the tour. DMB has been a band. When you go to their show, they're gonna have improv jams. My first show, I think it was the Do You Remember jam, which was cool back then. And now I don't want to hear Do You Remember, but one time every 3 years now. It's been overplayed. But they were experimenting with Do You Remember, right? My first show, May 25th, 2012. They experiment with stuff. They bring it in, bring it back. That's got to give them some points. To go to a show to have top 40 hits and do that is unheard of. To experiment like that. Um, Again, because Fish and the Grateful Dead, they're not getting top 40 hits. DMB has a top 40. All they gotta do now, and I talk about how I disagree with Setlist. The band could be even more mailed in than they are now. But they did put effort into these sets and the way things sounded. They've sustained a fan base. Now, the fan base sometimes, and this is where again I say like sometimes it goes to their head because attendance is kind of slipping. But everyone loses attendance. There's a lot of 90s acts that just they only can do a little ballroom now, right? The Third Eye Blinds, they how many times they've come to Connecticut a bajillion times, and this is a solid band, but they can only fill up a college theater, a house of blues, a bar, right? A big bar, a bar with some space, right? With two, three, 4,000 people. Or that's not a bar, I guess. Never mind. But the point is, they fill up spaces with about I've seen 1,500 to 2,000, all the way up to like 5, 6,000. Third Eye Blind. That's what they do. But DMB, they've sustained the fan base to get the gorge pretty much whenever they want, outside of Dave and Tim years, and I think Dave and Friends years. I'm not. I don't quote me on that, but essentially they get the gorge every year, pretty much. Okay, that's impressive. They get people to fly to Washington State like I did, right? And then to me, the other thing is the unique sax player and violin. Um, that those are the two things. Boyd, even though he's off key, he's always been off beat. He just sounded better back in the day. He was more solid. He was fully healthy and young. But the violin is unique. And Leroy Moore, the way he played saxophone outside of Bradford Marsalis, and you could even argue like but the fleck tones aren't as mainstream. Like, but the fleck tones, they got some nice, but it's not rock. That's more banjo. It's more folk. But it's a very unique thing to see a sax player like Leroy in acoustic rock band. When you see other acts like Billy Joel bring a sax player, obviously you have Springsteen, but the way that Leroy is the heart of DMB, that's unique for the sax player to be the heart. The Dave Matthews was not the heart of the band when Leroy Moore was alive. It was Leroy Moore. He was the one who kept everything together. He challenged Dave, right? When you look at the set list writing, some of these sets, not that I want everything Dreaming Tree, Monkey Man, this and that. Some of these sets, Leroy Moore would have been like, bruh, Dave, cut it out. Cut it the flip out. Dave, we're not playing Come Tomorrow. Delete that song from the album, right? Because when Leroy Moore passes, the songs, now you had Stand Up, and that was just Stand Up. But Leroy Moore challenged Dave, and he challenged himself. He hated 41, is from what reports say. But he played it. He overcame it. When you listen to the balance of the band, when Rashawn was with Leroy, Rashawn was not doing all this squeaky stuff. He was more smooth. He was more subtle. I mean, that's a unique thing to have a sax player be your quarterback. And the way that Leroy, the sound of the band from from 1998 to 2004 is just on another level. And even before that, they sounded great. But just once with modern stuff that they ever got, once they on the come up, Dave gets better guitars, right? Gets his Taylors. The 98 to '04, wow, they just sound solid. In 2000 and 2001, that's where I even narrow it down even for like those 2 years. Like when I think of Live Tracks 31, that's probably one of the best sounding live tracks that I've heard. And you have your Red Rocks 95s, but just Leroy was a huge part of this band's legacy and the way they just came together. And there was so much balance, there was so much space, right? That it makes the band special. And then you have the sales stuff, they had the number one. But to me, the number ones, I don't count that because here's the thing. People are saying, oh, they had X amount of number ones. Number ones are based on when you drop. If you drop now, DMB took out Titanic from the top spot in '98. If they dropped before these crowded streets the same week as the Titanic soundtrack got onto the charts, the Titanic soundtrack is winning. So the number one thing to me, I don't put much credit into that because, and rappers do this all the time. You had your Kanye 50 Cent battle, but most rappers, most labels, they strategically put their best products out with no competition, with no other competitors. There's a couple of times where it's exceptions. Same thing with rock. They put these albums out on weeks where there's nothing else that can. sell as much. So yeah, they take over the spot from Titanic, or they take over the spot from this person, but they're not selling the same weekend as Michael Jackson, right? Earlier in their career, when Michael Jackson was on his tail end, they're not doing the same week as Bon Jovi. Or they wouldn't dare, even though Billy Joel stopped making stuff in '93, they wouldn't dare drop the same week as Billy Joel or Elton John. So number ones to me is not is something people are saying that I don't to me it doesn't matter. Um, but I do think that they should get in. But again, it's not the end all be all. And one thing that I've also said is this: when you go to a show in 2000 or 2020, I should say, right? You're not gonna be like someone's not gonna be like, hey, Bob, you remember that 2000 show you went to? Remember that 2004 show where the band was just on fire? You're not gonna tell your friend, well, yeah, I remember it, but it wasn't that good. They weren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back then, so that show wasn't good. Now this show we just went to in 2020, this was much better because they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Their sound is better because they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's not gonna be the conversation. That's not going to be it. They're not. The sound isn't going to get better. You know, they're not going to just magically have a different blend. They're not going to play Dreaming Tree to Monkey Man. And some people I saw on Twitter were talking to Stefan, and shout out to Jen and Hines, who were also playing some no, John Mayer, right? And they also gave me some stats about Stevie Ray Vaughan um, having 18 million votes or so, which is more than Bon Jovi. People are holding the Bon Jovi thing as the goal. But the dispute is, and maybe you guys can answer this. I'll tweet to you guys after. Could you vote more than once per day? Granted, people are voting 4, 5, 6 different accounts, right? So I don't know. But yeah, like it's not gonna be an impact if they get it or not. The sound of the band's not gonna change, right? And someone asked on Twitter, are the tickets going to go up because of this? I don't know. I hope ticket prices are the same this year. I don't know if they'll go up because to me, I don't think the Hall of Fame is going to make them, raise. What's up, DMB Mamas? Um, I don't think if they get it, I don't think the ticket prices are going to hop up because of that. I think the prices are going to hop up because they want a little more um, money, or the financing of the deal is going to be a little bit more. Which brings me to Ticketmaster, which is going to be what I'll end on. And what I noticed, if you saw my clip on Twitter, this is going to be key for DMB to an extent. Because if you can get certain tickets in a SPAC and an Alpine and a Deer Creek, take it. As long as you're okay with the price. Hey, at the price is 150 for a night 2 Alpine ticket that's in a lower level, just take the ticket. If it's a lower, if it's an upper, say get out of here. But if it's a lower and the ticket is 150, if it's a pit ticket for 150, take the ticket. If you feel okay with it. If you don't buy it. If you don't want to pay it, whatever. But what I noticed with this Dead and Company fall run, just to give you a backstory. So Dead and Company, their attendance is now they're doing stadiums. They do less shows in DMB, but they're doing stadiums and ballparks during the summer, and then they do fall arena show, arena shows, right? Now, with this fall tour, they didn't release all the dates at once, right? They didn't release all the dates at once. They slow drip these shows. They're playing in Hampton, Virginia right now. They said we're doing 2 shows in Madison Square Garden, 2 shows in Hampton, Virginia. Happy New Year. The fans freaked out, right? Like, oh no, there's only 4 shows for this fall run. Most fall tours are 8 or 9 different cities, right? For Dead and Company. Some of them maybe slightly less, but they announce them all at once, right? So fans were freaking out. Ticket prices were jacked up. Then they add 2 shows at the Nassau Coliseum. Then they add West Coast shows. And when they only had 4 shows on the East Coast, the West Coast said, I'm flying out to the East Coast. The Midwest said, I'm flying out to the East Coast. The South said, I'm flying out to the East Coast. And the East Coast said, I'm going to as many shows as I can because there's only 4 shows. Over time, two shows were, like I said, they started off with Ford, MSG two times, and Hampton two times. Hampton's very small venue. They call it the mothership. DMB's Live Tracks series makes a stop there. It's one of those early first 10 live. I think is it volume 7? Can't remember which one it is, but there's one Hampton Coliseum New Year's Eve with the fuck toes. Really dope. Um, So then they added shows, and then with the added shows, people said, "I'm not paying these prices." Now these are arena shows. This is the fall. These are not summer shows, so it's a little different with DMB. But fans said, "I'm not paying the price. I'll pay for a pit ticket, but these sections behind the pit that you're charging $200 for, I'm not paying $200. I don't care if it's New York City." They're like, "Hey, it's New York City. We're gonna do whatever." The same seats, 8 or 9, 10 or 11 or 12 rows behind the pit this week. They were $200 right on the in the pre-sale and on sale. Tickets never sold. The day before the show, the tickets were $67. Actually, that weekend before the show. The same tickets that were 200, Todd says he's too old for the pit. The same that weekend before the show, the same ticket is $67 plus fees versus 199 plus fees. Waiting it out, especially if they have a fall tour, waiting it out is going to be the key. Now, from MSG, and if they have a Mohegan show or a smaller venue that's popular, you may want to get your ticket right away. But if it's a less popular venue for an arena fall show, or it's a less popular venue for the regular summer tour, remember Pensacola, my boy John Dix went to Pensacola, Florida, and that show didn't sell out. And a lot of the fans were casual. Jacksonville, you could get tickets. Now, the pit was hard to get, and I think DMB Mamas was there, but like there were tickets that you could get in the lower level at a good rate. That's the regular tour. So if you're at a venue that's not going to be as popular, waiting it out may be your best option because Ticketmaster is showing that they are lowering the ticket prices if they don't get people to bite, and it's showing that the fans are winning if you wait it out. The same Dead and Company show this week, people were trying to get rid of their tickets and they were trying to get rid of them for what they paid for face value. And people looked at them like they were crazy. Because remember, the seats that I talked about on Twitter that were behind the pit, let's say 10 rows, 12, 13 rows back from the pit, people bought the seats there at 199. So they say, you know what? I'm going to give people a break. I'll sell them for 150 to you. Fans were telling their friends, bro, why are you selling these tickets at 150? It says 67, whatever. There's a little bit of change. Don't like you're gonna rip me off. And then the people selling it say, hey, I'm a fan that's taking a loss on these tickets. If I'm selling these tickets for 150 and I paid 199 plus fees, I'm taking a huge L on the ticket price. But so there's discrepancies now because people who bought early. Same thing with Green Day, and we'll get more to that. Hopefully the next time I can stream. I don't think I can stream next weekend. We'll have to see. But with Green Day, they have this hella mega tour, and people bought tickets. They were freaking out day one. Now, if you got a pit ticket, keep it for that show because the pit is right in the ballpark, right next to it. The best seats in the house, or best standing in the house. People were buying seats in the lower field areas or in the lower like actual baseball seating, but out just behind the field. They were buying these seats in fear that they were going to sell out, and they didn't sell out in any of their shows, to my knowledge. Still, there's tons of seats left. New York City, and Miami, and LA. They didn't sell out these venues. It's not just Green Day. It's Green Day, Weezer, and Fall Out Boy. So they got all the you may not like those bands, but those are popular bands, especially Fall Out Boy and Green Day. And they don't have as much relevance as they did 5, 10 years ago, but they still have fan bases. They fill up amphitheaters pretty well. But they misjudged the demand for a ballpark show, which is totally different because you're literally like a baseball field away for majority of the seats. So if you're looking at Ticketmaster, waiting it out at certain venues is going to be your best bet. For Hartford, for Deer Creek, for Specs, take what you can get. Obviously, have a price that you say I'm not paying more than that, but if you can get something at 115, 120 for a SPAC, take the ticket. Take the ticket. I don't care where, as long as it's not a lawn ticket. If it's a physical seat, 120, I would even say 150. You get a seat anywhere at SPAC for 150. Take the ticket as long as it's legitimate. I mean, they'll be buying off Craigslist. And be careful with certain swaps online. But you get it from Cash or Trade or StubHub, whatever. If it's 150 after fees or even 150 before fees, if it's a lower level seat, take it because the SPAC seats are hard to get. So that's all I got for this. We're going on 45 minutes. That's all I got for now. Maybe I'll try to get back here later in the week, have some conversations. But again, if you came in late, watch the stream in this the beginning part of the stream because I do explain why certain videos are gone from my page. But again, I stand behind the wanting to correct my brother and my sister mentality. Um, People ask why I'm critical of DMB fans. Well, when you're not respecting the Hall of Fame process and the Hall of Fame itself and the other acts, that makes me mad. I mean, DMB, we are representing the band. So we should do better. We should look at our neighbors and say, hey, can we do better? Can everyone everyone needs to relax with this fan vote. Vote every day, right? Log in your vote, on to the next. Log in your vote, on to the next. This whole what if this happens? What if someone catches up? Someone was like, what if someone was freaking out today? Oh no, we're not gonna get the Bon Jovi goal. Um, we're 33,000 plus ahead of Pat Benatar. Now, if that goes down, and we're seeing on a weekend that voting is starting to get bad. Well, let's see who's not voting. That's when we go at that. But we're 30. That last week this time, DMB was not in first place. When we started, they weren't even. They kind of slipped out of the top five out of the gate. They had a sluggish, start. They're 30,000 plus, 33,000 plus over Pat Benatar, let alone the sixth place vote, because um, you know we have tons of vote, and I see Taji fear the Rush effect. The thing with the Rush effect is this: Rush wasn't nearly as respected as DMB, even though not like they weren't hated, but Rush was kind of ignored, even by me. I didn't get into Rush until they started wrapping up their tour. The Clockwork Angels era of Rush is when I got back. I knew Tom Sawyer. I knew a couple of Spirit of the Radio, but I didn't know Jacob's Ladder till I got down and listened to it. Rush is a band that they were stuck when Rush's first album came out. They thought they were led. People thought they were Led Zeppelin. I was talking to a Canadian, a Toronto native, who was at an Allman Brothers band show. They're actually the poster behind me. He was at that show sitting next to me. He was talking about he was a teenager when Rush's first album came out. They thought it was Led Zeppelin. So Rush was in an era that was just far superior, like classic rock in the late 60s, early 70s. Now I wasn't alive then, but to me, everyone holds that to high regard. When people hear Jimi Hendrix now, there's 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, there's rappers now. I mean, some of y'all don't listen to rap, but some of these rappers dress like they think they're rock stars. They listen to the Marilyn Mansons and the metal, and they listen to Jimi Hendrix. Like that's what kids do. Kids don't just stick to their genre. Like some of these kid rappers, they've listened to all sorts of heavy metal. So the classic rock era just has a timeless feel that I think will reign for at least generations to come. I can't tell you in 3,000 years what it's going to be like, or if this planet is still intact. Hopefully, it still is. But The thing is, Rush was in a like in that era, there was just so many more classic acts that just you had to go up against, right? And Pat Benatar has, she's stuck in trying to get in. Her peers have gotten in. Nine Inch Nails has stayed on this for a little bit, and there's other acts that have been stuck on this list because who they had to go up against is pretty tough. When you have Kish's and Whitney Houston's and these other acts and Stevie Ray Vaughan in 2015, SRV, man, these are tough acts to go against. But DMB, I mean, they're respectable acts. Don't get me wrong, they're respectable. But Rush had to go up against acts that were just all time 70s acts. Where DMB has some talent that they're on, but to get in the top five, there's not really a worry 1 or 2 years in. And even if and the number one thing, and if you just came in, Todd, the thing that I've stressed about it is vote. Definitely vote. I'm not saying don't vote, but it's 1/1000th of the vote. So either it comes down to if if the voters think DMB should get in, they'll get in. Even if they don't have a fan, if they get disqualified, let's say they find out someone, a DMB hardcore fan, hacked the voting process. So they say, you know what, DMB's disqualified. Even if that happens, they're probably still going to get in year one or year two. Um, right. I mean, I know it's hard because it's happened every year since they've had the fan vote. It's happened every single year. But also DMB is 30,000 ahead. And even so, I think the thing is, okay, you have a 30,000, you have 30, it's 33,000 lead, right? So what the thing should be is, all right, hey, let's get 2 or 3 people, and it's hard to do because there's like thousands upon thousands of fans in these groups. But there should be people who say, all right, if you're nonstop anxious about the voting, don't alert us unless we have 33,000 now. Send an SOS if it's within 5,000. And if we drop 15,000 votes in a day, send an SOS. Because the fan vote, whether we win by 1 vote or whether we win by 15,000 votes, the vote, by the time the fan vote ends, every other ballot has already been submitted. They're not going to tamper with the ballots. But yeah, if they're looking at the fan vote, they're going to see DMB has a 32,000 person lead. I, I don't see that going away in the next week. If it does, you can have fail safes. That's the issue with some of these groups, and I'm not trying to knock them, knock some of these people. Well, actually, I am kind of, but I'm saying is like if you have a group of 27,000 people, if you have a group of 10,000 people, you have a group of a thousand followers, keep telling them to vote, but set up a plan to say if again we're 5,000 votes in the lead, that's our lead now. That's when you alert people. Or 10,000. Let's just say be nice and say 10,000. All right, we go down from 33,000 to 10,000. Someone send an SOS. Until then, keep voting. Do what you do. Set your email alerts. Set your cell phone alerts, and life will go on. But to freak out nonstop about this, to be worried about what happened to other arcs, I understand we're human, right? I went for an interview, not my current job, but the job I got before I just got promoted. I honestly, there's no reason why they shouldn't have given me the job. It was more of a entry level job, and I had experience that was above entry level. And for a year, I took pretty much money that was almost, it was when you take out some of the quarterly bonuses that I got on the other job, it was less money. But that's the point. Sometimes you take a job for less money than you get more. My dad did that during the recession. And that's the thing is like, but I was a little worried, but I was okay. Okay, I can get this job. Like I did everything I could. I did my resume, my cover letter. That's how we have to treat this voting. Um, if you're sending out your resume, if you're sending out your cover letter, and you do the interview goes well, you take your practice and you do stuff, you shouldn't be worried about getting the job. And the thing is, there's an overwhelming majority of fans that aren't going to stop voting tomorrow. Fans of the Dave Matthews Band, we have more managers than we do sales agents. More people are worried about this vote. And as long as if everyone's worried about the vote, like now, like I said on Twitter, people aren't going to forget to vote. And if it starts slipping, that's when you start sending the alerts to people. You start texting your boy, hey, you got your side chick voting for you. You got your auntie, your grandma, right? You got your baby moms voting for you for DMB, right? Did you go stick up the local bank and then tell everyone to vote for DMB or they're gonna die? Like that's horrible. But like that's the type of thing is when you have your fail safe, it's a 33,000 vote lead. So if you keep somebody at the nuclear missile controls, there shouldn't be a need for the nuclear missile to be fired. As long as everything's being monitored, there shouldn't be a misfire. There shouldn't be a nuclear meltdown or whatever. But I only can say that in so many ways. Yeah, but but I even use the politics example. It's not like politics where people do get comfortable and forget don't vote, but the DMB debate, it's not like an election because an election people just aren't engaged. If you are a Democrat in Texas, well, something you may vote, but your vote you kind of think it doesn't count. If you're a Republican in Connecticut for the general election, unless the polls say otherwise, whatever. But that's different because politics is like it's a chore. This fan thing is what people's hearts and passion are. And my example online was like Sean Hannity or Don Lemon not tweeting about politics. That's what this fan voted. It's not, you don't have to go to a ballot box and you don't have to do all this stuff. You don't have to drive. And shout out to Todd. He took his mother to vote, which is awesome because there's a lot of, we have a lot of people that are older in age that they need that support. They feel safe. They can't drive. My grandfather can't like really drive. Yeah, we actually kind of, he doesn't at this point, he's recovering from, he's good, but he doesn't drive. So like grandma went away. I drove him to church. I went to church with him. I drove him back. Right. So, but the fan vote is like the tweeting along the political lines. There are certain personalities, there's certain Twitter warriors that you see every day that just they feel about a certain political issue and they tweet nonstop. That is exactly how DMB fans are online. All I'm seeing online is people that are nonstop vote, 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 vote. There's a couple people who are forgetting. Some people are working long hours. You got kids, you got this, you got that. But the overall majority, even with kids, they're like, forget Timmy at practice. I got to vote on my phone real quick. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I'm going to log in, get this stuff, log into Facebook, log into Twitter, log into my third Gmail account. People are doing that. And that's why I think it's like it's different. It's just like does Don Lemon or Sean Hannity forget to post a tweet? Does President Trump forget to post a tweet about partisan politics? No. Every day they wake up and they do it. And that's how DMB fans have been waiting for this. Um, and which is kind of sad. I mean, it's good and it's bad. But DMB fans have been waiting for this moment to get validation to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for years. All I've seen since 2015, joining some of these groups, is, oh, when are they going to get to Rock and Roll? Oh, I'm at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't want to vote for DMB. I'm writing in DMB, DMB. This whole year, DMB was at the top of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just like when you can, at the end of your tour, you write in who you want. So the fan base, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but the fan base, they're not going to forget where a regular vote, there's going to be certain people who do forget to vote or who are kind of lazy about it or who feel it's hopeless, but that's different. This is something that people desire. People have a clear choice. You go to the ballot box for a lot of these elections, there's not a clear choice, right? There's this person sucks, but this person doesn't suck as bad. In Connecticut, that's how I feel. It's like you pick this person and you could say, all right, the principles of this party is this, this, and this. But in Connecticut, for example, our Republican representatives have been horrible for governor. They like I feel like there's a collusion between the Democrats and the Republicans in our state because the Republicans put these dry, boring, lackluster folks, and I've seen other Republican candidates in other offices. Maybe they're too young or whatever, but I've seen them actually have charisma. Have Voting is about charisma. Voting is about swagger. It's about how you carry yourself. And the candidates that we've had, it makes me feel like for Republican, if it makes me feel like Democrats are like, hey, just hey, go easy on us here. And I don't know. Anyway, that's too political. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Let me get out of here. It's been an hour, and I've talked about nothing for half the time. But thank you guys for logging in. And right, if you're not a progressive, you're not a MAGA fan this year, you have troubles, right? And there's no, and that's what it's like. It's so split, and it's so like the idea that people go to these rallies. I just can't, and I know, I guess I get some people why people go to rallies, but to be infatuated with some of these politicians, like people don't believe in church, they don't believe in God, but they believe in a politician on either side that's just literally marketing themselves off of division. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. People don't have faith in God, but they have faith in these lunatics on both sides that have plans that aren't gonna work. Anyway, it's your boy Constance. Let me get off here before I get in trouble. Peace.